everybody, so today I'm bringing to you my vlog of the 1000 Doors readathon. It's a brand new readathon being run by Meg from Meg with Books, Emma from Drinking by My Shelf and Tasman from Tea Books and Tasman. It's a choose your own adventure readathon throughout the month of November. So on the 1st of November they are all going to upload a video which contains your first reading prompt. You choose which reading prompt you want to do, you read that book, and then once you finish reading that book you go back to the original video, and at the end of the video you say whether you liked it or not, and then that will lead you to your next reading prompt. So we're all going into this readathon without a TBR planned, which is a bit scary, I guess, especially because I have no idea what prompts are going to be like are they going to be broad, are they going to be specific, but I am excited for it. There are a few books that I specifically want to read before the end of the year, so I hope I can manage to fit those into the readathon somehow. Like I mentioned, it's lasting for the whole month of November, but I believe that you can do it in just a week if you want to, because basically when you choose your next prompt you just keep on going and clicking through the videos and repeating the process until you get to like the last video, until you get to the end. So it all just depends on how quickly you read. I usually average about one book a week, although I guess it depends on how many prompts, how many videos there are going to be. I am excited for this readathon. It's obviously quite a unique one. Last year I did something kind of similar for the Magical Readathon Winter Edition run by G from Book Roast. She basically had a website where you answered a bunch of like scenario based questions related to like the Harry Potter books, and that led you to your reading prompt on what you're going to read, and whatever you answered for those like scenario questions, and that took you to your reading prompt. But I was quite busy last winter and I didn't really have chance to properly take part. I really just had fun answering the questions. I honestly at this point have no idea how my November is going to turn out, how busy or how quiet things are going to be, so I'm just going to try and have fun with it, whistle down my TBR a bit. So it is currently the 30th of October, so we are 2 days away from the beginning of the readathon. Next time I will see you will be on the 1st of November, and I will be filming my reaction to the prompts and letting you know what my first book is going to be. Right, so it's the morning of the 1st of November. I'm about to watch all the prompt videos and then decide which one I want to go for and then which books I'm going to read for it. So I'm going to start off with Meg's Prompts 1 video.
So the first doors have opened. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan if you are new here, and welcome to the first prompt of the 1000 Doors readathon. And each of us three have kind of themed the prompts that we'll be giving throughout this journey in a really kind of special and unique way. And so mine is going to be memes. Could it be anything else? So basically I'm going to show you a meme and you have to pick a book that fits the vibe of that meme, however you interpret that. Without further ado, shall we just see the first prompt? I think we should. Okay, so your first prompt is this.
Ah, that's history.
Queen Whitney herself said, ah, that's history.
Okay, so as you saw, Meg's prompt was basically based on a meme, so, and you can interpret that any way you want. So it could either be like an historical fiction, which is where mine first went to, or you could like read a really influential book within a genre. Like Meg also suggested like maybe picking a book that was like nominated or won like the Goodreads Choice Awards like a few years ago, so something like that. I have that written down now in my little reading journal. I'm now going to go and watch Emma's prompt video.
And we're off! The 1000 Doors readathon is officially underway. Are you ready for your first prompt? Your first prompt for the 1000 Doors readathon is 5. And you can interpret this however you would like.
Okay, that's an interesting one. So Emma's prompt was just 5, and you can interpret that again any way you want to. So she said like it can be like a 5-star prediction, it could be like the 5th book in a series, or a book in a 5-book series, a book with the number 5 in the title, something like that. Okay, much to think about. I'm going to watch Tea Books and Tasman's prompt video now.
Hello everybody, my name is Tasman May from the channel Tea Books and Tasman, and welcome to the first ever 1000 Doors readathon. Let's get into the first prompt then, shall we? So, my first prompt for you is to read a book that feels like the TV show Breaking Bad. Now you can interpret this in any way that you like.
Okay, as you heard, Tasman's prompt is to read a book that feels like the TV show Breaking Bad. I've watched like 7 episodes of Breaking Bad, and Obviously she said that you can interpret it in any way you want, like pick any of the aspects of the show and then read a book based on that. Okay, so I think at the prompt, Meg's and Emma's are like speaking the most to me. I'm having more like ideas for those ones, so I am gonna have a think and come back to you with some books and then make my final decision. Right, so let me explain my thought process a little bit. So for Meg's prompt, the that's history meme, if we're going down the historical fiction route, I was thinking of Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and if we're talking like an influential book or like something that was like popular on BookTube like a few years ago, I was thinking I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson or Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I'm wanting to read the whole trilogy of this by the end of the year, and in order to do that I need to reread this book which I read a few years ago. And then for Emma's prompt, I was thinking of going down the 5-star prediction route, which again I was thinking of I'll Give You the Sun for, or Beach Read by Emily Henry. But really I'm kind of narrowing it down to either Beach Read or Illuminae, so I think I'm gonna go with Meg's prompt and I'm going to reread Illuminae, so in order for me to read the rest of the series basically. But I read this back in 2016, so I've completely forgotten what's happened in this book. This book is like over 500 pages, but because it's all told in mixed media, it will be like a really quick read. I think the first time I read this, I read it for a readathon and I read it in like 2 days, so I think I'll be okay with this as my first read, and it'll be something nice and quick to like get me going. November 3rd. I didn't actually film anything yesterday, but I am now halfway through Illuminate. I'm on page 300. I'm just going to say that, I'm sorry about this awful lighting, but we move. Today on the 1000 Doors Readathon on Twitter, Emma's been doing a lot of reading sprints, which I've been taking part in. The one she did this afternoon, we played like a lot of childhood games, and we played MASH. That was quite fun. I don't think I've actually ever properly played MASH, so I definitely had to do it multiple times because I kept on messing it up. And basically as you're reading, you had to pick out like character names, modes of transport, pets, numbers, careers, and then write them down, and that creates your like options. So I ended up with, from reading Illuminae, was my true love is Byron Zhang. We live in a mansion in Hangar Bay 4. My career is in Baytech Industries. My mode of transport is the Lincoln spaceship. We have no pets, and I have 2 children. Yeah, and Illuminae, literally no animals at all are mentioned, so I didn't have anything for pets at all. But yeah, that was quite fun. I got a lot of reading done today, and like I mentioned in like my intro clip, I have basically completely forgotten everything that happens in this book, other than the fact that the 2 main characters at the beginning of the book, they like split up, but they kind of inevitably end up being brought back together again, even though they end up on 2 different spaceships, as they have been evacuated from the planet they live on, as it was being attacked by this like mega corporation. But in the book itself, there is so much drama going on, so much is happening, so much like kind of lies and secrecy from people in power, and there's actually a virus outbreak in this book, and there are like people in quarantine for it. Luckily the virus in this book is like nothing like COVID. It's this virus that travels in the air that like basically affects you psychologically almost. It ends up sending you into like a catatonic state. It's kind of scary, to be honest, like what this like virus is doing to people. And obviously this isn't like a pandemic book, and the only other thing that's like similar to like a current situation, other than like the being in quarantine bit, as this is a mixed media book, it's not told through traditional prose, lots of different types of way the story's being told via transcript, like chat logs, etc, etc. One of the things was this poster aimed towards children that's like hanging up in the spacecraft, that's kind of like telling the people on the ship what to do to prevent the spread of like this virus going around. And the first 2 bullet points of this poster says, always wear your face mask and always wash your hands. And I was just like, oh my god, this is too real. Thursday the 5th of November, bonfire night. Yesterday I went to the library before they kind of closed again. They're still staying open whilst the UK goes back into lockdown, but you can't borrow any books. So I went to town and borrowed some books. I took some Bookstagram photos, read about 100 pages of Illuminae, but today I have just finished reading Illuminae. When I first read it back in 2016, I gave it 5 stars, and I am yet again going to give it 5 stars. It's a fantastic book, great plot, great characters, very suspenseful, very unique way of like telling the story, and I'm happy now that I have been reminded and it's fresh in my head what's happened in this book, so then I can continue to the sequels and finally finish reading this trilogy by the end of this year. So I'm going to go back to the original prompt video, Meg's Door 1 video, and I'm gonna go to the end of the video. Okay, so now I have to say what star rating I gave my book. So I'm going to click on the 4-5 stars one and open my second door.
Welcome to prompt 2. So the meme for this prompt is
I'm back.
I think this is a really easy prompt.
So as you heard, the second prompt is I'm back. That could be like interpreted as like reading a sequel, reading a book where like the theme is like about returning or going back to a place, or you can pick up a book that you previously DNF'd. So because I've just read Illuminae, I guess the natural assumption for this prompt would be to go for Gemini, which is the sequel. However, I have just read like a 600-page book, and so I'm kind of tempted to go for something smaller. So I was thinking of The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is the final book in the Woman of Some Kind of Magic like trilogy. This is a poetry book, so I could literally read it in like 2 hours, or I could go very literal. One of the books I borrowed from the library yesterday is Look Who's Back by Timo Vermes. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Okay, so I've had a think about it, and I thought that, you know, whilst I'm on a roll with this series, and so I don't end up procrastinating finishing the series again, my next book is going to be Gemini, which is the sequel to Illuminae, as I just mentioned. This is another 600-page book, but it is told in the same format as Illuminae, so hopefully it should take me about the same amount of time to read. And like, unless the third book, Obsidio, can fit into any of the prompts, I will make sure that the books I read after this one will all be shorter books, because otherwise I'm going to get so burnt out with reading. So it's Saturday now, and I am now halfway through Gemini. I am on page 371 to be precise, and I am really loving this book so far. It's so fast paced in like the best kind of way, and it's so action packed, so dramatic. I'm really liking the characters. Like I said, so much has happened in just the first half of this book. I'm so curious to find out what's going to happen in the last half of this book, how it's going to get all wrapped up. Anyway, obviously before this book I read Illuminae, which is the first book in the series, and I realised I didn't actually explain the plot of the book basically at all, so that's what we're going to do now, and try and explain Gemini as well without spoiling like either of the books. So in Illuminae, it takes place in the year 2575. Our two main characters are Ezra and Katie. They live on a planet called Carenza, and this big mega corporation called Beta Industries attacks their planet, so they have to evacuate. And that morning of the attack, Katie and Ezra broke up, so they're in a bit of a complicated situation because they do essentially help each other evacuate, and they end up on 2 separate spacecrafts. So Katie ends up on the Hypatia spacecraft and Ezra ends up on the Alexander, and whilst they're on these 2 separate ships they end up basically coming back together again and communicating with each other. The whole story is told via like files and chat log and like audio files. I think it's pretty well known at this point that this series is told via mixed media. Ezra and Katie, they basically get brought back together and they end up working with each other because there is a lot of people in power who are telling lies, there's a lot of deceit, there's a deadly virus, there is an artificial intelligence supercomputer going haywire, there's a lot of death. And within this book, a place called the Heimdall Station gets referenced a fair amount, and Heimdall Station is basically this like spacecraft that has a wormhole in the centre, which is literally a hole in the fabric of space and time. It's what's technically called a jump station, so people can go there and they basically can teleport from like that place to another colony or planet. And the Heimdall Station is where Gemina takes place, and in this book our two main characters are Hannah and Nick. Hannah is the daughter of the captain of the Heimdall Station. She's quite like spoiled and pampered, but she is trained in like martial arts. She knows how to like hold herself and like she knows how to fight back. She's very smart and strong. And Nick is a member of this infamous crime family called the House of Knives, and within this they are mainly like drug dealers, and even though like Hannah and Nick, they are like, you know, completely separate worlds, they are basically thrown together to defend the Heimdall Station because a squad of people from Baytech Industries have invaded the station and they're basically defending their home. There is one thing mentioned in the synopsis that kind of spoils illuminae a little bit, which I'm not going to mention, but basically a character from illuminae does return in this book, as far as the synopsis tells me so. I do plan to read for a couple of more hours today, and I feel like if I kind of keep on track I should be able to finish this book by tomorrow. So I think the next time I see you will probably be when I finish this book. I just finished reading Gemina. 5 out of 5 stars for this book. The last half especially was superb. Like, I obviously can't say a lot about what happened because of spoilers. This was amazing, and for me this is like kind of a rare occasion where the sequel is better than the first book in the series, and I'm really looking forward to see how the series wraps up in Obsidio. I feel like I'm being like so timid in my reaction to this book, but like trust me, it was incredible. Like one of the easiest 5 stars I've given all year, to be honest. So now we can open up the third door. I'm going to find out what my third prompt is. So at the end of Meg's prompt 2 video, in order to get my next one, I have to basically answer, did I guess where the book was going? The options are either no, yes but I didn't mind, yes, or you DNF'd it. I have to say there's only one thing I kind of predicted. Halfway through the book there's basically a character that is presented initially as a good guy but it turns out to be a bad guy. That I kind of predicted because it seemed a bit sus, but the ending and the way that everything turned out in general I didn't predict at all. We are going to click the no option.
You are smashing this, oh my god. So far you have got the most positive response out of all of the paths, and honestly I'm kind of jealous.
Quick pause, I just thought as well, how funny would it be if this third prompt means that I end up reading Obsidio? Like, that would honestly be quite perfect, to be honest.
It's a book that feels like Marvel. If you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you could choose a sci-fi. Whether or not you like the main
character. So, as you heard, Tasmin's prompt is to read a book that reminds you of Marvel, and that can be like in any context, like the comics, superhero stories, the cinematic universe. Now, I'm not super into Marvel. The only films I've watched are The Avengers, kind of, and Black Panther. However, I know that Guardians of the Galaxy is obviously significantly set in space, and Tasmin herself suggested that based on like Guardians of the Galaxy you could read a sci-fi book, so I'm just saying. So yeah, my next book is going to be Obsidio by Amy Corfin and Jay Kristoff, the final book in the illuminae trilogy. Honestly, I'm not mad about reading the whole trilogy during this readathon. It was like low-key what I was hoping for. I don't know, I feel like it's a bit more fun to read a full series during a readathon compared to like just in your own time. I don't know, but yeah, let's get going. haven't filmed for a few days because on Monday I got a cold and I have no idea where I got it from, because the last place I went was last Wednesday. I just went into town before we went back into lockdown again, and I haven't been anywhere else since, so who knows where I got ill from. It was literally just like a runny nose and a sore throat, but also it felt like my brain was like running at reduced performance levels, if you know what I mean. Like I did a 2-hour Zoom dance class on Monday evening as well, and my brain felt like it was fried by the end of it, so that was fun. But obviously I'm better now, and I'm now 309 pages into Obsidio, so I'm exactly halfway through. So for this book we are mostly on the planet of Corenza. Our two main characters in this one are Asher Grant, who is Kaylee's cousin, and Reese Lindstrom. Asher is a pharmacy intern, and Reese was working as like a tech guy on another jump station, but because we're like lower numbers of soldiers, he's been asked to work as a soldier basically on the ground. And Asher and Reese, they used to be in a relationship, so it's a bit awkward when they meet again for the first time because we haven't actually seen each other in 3 years. And also we are still hearing from other characters from the previous books, so we are kind of switching between Corenza and like other places as well. Currently I'm not enjoying it as much as I did Gemina. It is still really great. Currently I'd say it's like a 4-star, just not hitting me as much or like impacting me as much as Gemina, but we still got like 300 pages left, so who knows what will happen. It is Friday afternoon and I have just finished reading Obsidio, and I am going to be giving this book 4.5 stars. Out of the whole trilogy, I think this one is my least favourite. However, that doesn't mean it's a bad book, as reflected by my rating obviously. It's still really action packed, the story got wrapped up really well, and just as with the other books, the deaths are absolutely brutal. Like children literally get shot in this book. It is pretty scary and gruesome. But yeah, another book down, and I've completed the Illuminae Files series, which I'm so happy about. My like emotional response to this series is quite similar to how I felt when reading The Hunger Games, literally just in the fact that I would rank the books in the same way, meaning that I think that the second book is the best and then the last book was the worst. And I use worst in quotation marks because obviously I still gave it a 4.5, but just compared to the others it didn't quite hit me in the same way. So back to the prompt video as we go. So at the end of Tasmin's prompt video, I brought a book that reminds me of Marvel. The question she's asking at the end is, did you like the main characters? And the options are yes, kinda, no, or DNF. So in Obsidio we do hear from like the main characters from the previous book. I guess we will go with the main characters that are named in the synopsis of Obsidio, so we'll take that as Asher and Reese, and I'd say yes, I did like them both. They were both very complex, interesting characters. Asher had a bit more like, we got to hear a bit more of a background and like her origin story, if you will. Reese we didn't get quite as much info about, but I still liked him. Yeah, I think they're both great characters, so I'm going to select yes. Here we go.
You are just having the best luck this readathon. So you liked your last character. Let's see if this next book goes as well for you. Your next prompt is up.
For this prompt I suppose I could go with a book that I do have physically on my bookshelves, but right now I'm really craving an audiobook, especially after I've just read 3 600-page books in a row. So I looked on Scribd, I searched for the word up, the books I saved, and I had Upright's Woman Wanted by Sarah Gailey, Fire Shut Up in My Bones, a memoir by Charles Emblow, and On the Come Up by Andrew Thomas. And I actually saw a comment on Emma's prompt video saying that they're going to take it literally and go for On the Come Up, and I was like, you know what, I've been wanting to read that book for a while, so for my next book I'm going to be reading, or rather listening to, the audiobook of On the Come Up by Andrew Thomas. So this book is about a girl called Brie who wants to be one of the greatest rappers of all time as the daughter of an underground hip-hop legend who died right before he hit big. big. Bree's got massive shoes to fill, but when her first song goes viral for all the wrong reasons, Bree finds herself at the centre of controversy and portrayed by the media as more menace than MC. And with an eviction notice staring her family down, Bree no longer just wants to make it, she has to, even if it means becoming the very thing the public has made it out to be. I've heard in particular that the audiobook for On the Come Up is really good because Bree is a musician, she's a rapper, and I'm imagining in the audiobook you actually can like hear some of the songs and it makes it a really good experience. So yeah, we're gonna go for that.
Which I'm not. That's the country way of saying it. As bougie as Grandma wants to act, according to Granddaddy, she's just 1 foot out the backwoods and 1 toe from ignorant.
My reading when it comes to audiobooks. Like, before you know it, I have 2.5 hours remaining of the book out of an 11-hour audiobook total. So yeah, I'm quite close to the end of On the Come Up now. I am really liking it. I had heard like kind of mixed reviews about the book beforehand. Well, I guess not necessarily mixed, but a lot of like 3-star reviews. But at the moment for me, I'd say it's definitely above a 3-star. So this story is all about Bree and her family really. So this story is all about Bree, and she is an aspiring rapper. And a video of her doing a rap battle goes kind of viral. And then she ends up recording a song that becomes really popular as well. And the story's basically all about her like following her dreams, trying to like, you know, become successful in that area, and at the same time dealing with all the struggles that are going on in her own personal life. Like, there's a lot of drugs involved, and at school herself and all the other Black and Latinx students are experiencing a lot of racism and violence, and her family is struggling financially as well. Like at the beginning of the book, because it's like winter, obviously really cold, and they can't afford the heating and the electric, and then when they finally manage to pay the bills off it's at the expense of them going without food, so they have to go to a community centre and go to food banks to get food. So it's safe to say that Bree is definitely going through it. I guess the one criticism I have of the book is that the side characters, I'm mainly talking about Bree's friends, they have their own like individual character arcs, but I'm kind of caring more about Bree herself than anybody else, whereas in like other like young adult contemporary books I can definitely care equally about the main character and like the side characters, but that's only like a small critique really. Like I said, I have like 2.5 hours left of the audiobook, and I know realistically it's not going to have a happy ending, but I hope that it's at least a hopeful one. I have finished reading On the Come Up, and I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I really liked it. I feel like all the storylines and stuff got wrapped up, but not in a way that made it like too perfect and too unrealistic. I'm glad I decided to listen to the audiobook of this, especially with Bree's songs. Wouldn't have had the same impact if I was to just read it visually. And yeah, I think Andrew Thomas is a fantastic writer. I will definitely be reading whatever she puts out next. I know that in January, I believe, she has another book coming out which is a prequel to The Hate You Give, and it focuses specifically on one character, kind of giving their backstory, so I think I'll definitely be checking that out. And now we go on to our final prompt. So at the end of Emma's prompt video, she asked whether you liked the setting of the book you were reading, and the options are yes, no, kinda, or if you DNF'd the book. And I think I'm going to go with kinda for this one because I didn't love the setting, I didn't hate it, it was literally just in the background, and I think I liked more like the characters and the plot within the story. Let's press the kinda.
Hello friends, and welcome through your very next door. My name is Joel and I run the booktube channel Fictional Fates, and I'm really excited to be giving you your very next prompt. And so your very next prompt is to read a book with a weapon. Now, you can interpret this in many different ways.
So Joel's prompt was weapon, which, not gonna lie, it's quite a difficult prompt for me because, I don't know, I just always associate like weapons with like fantasy books. Joel's recommendations were like all fantasy books mostly, I think, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with his recommendations at all, but fantasy isn't a genre I read a lot of. But one book I think might be able to work is Internment by Samira Ahmed. I borrowed this from the library a few weeks ago and it has been on my wish list for quite a while, and this is set in a near future United States, and it's about this girl called Layla. She's 17 and her family are taken from her home and forced into an internment camp for Muslim American citizens, and it seems like she basically starts a revolution to like escape this internment camp, like along with everybody else. And like, I don't know, surely like leading a revolution involves weapons, right? I'm quickly filming this clip before the sun sets. I don't know what it is with me today. I don't know whether I'm ill or what, but I have just felt so cold all day. It's not been fun at all. Anyway, now I am at page 179 of Internment, so I am about halfway through. I am really liking it so far. The first half has been pretty intense because it's a very intense and stressful situation, obviously. Like, imagine that you and your family are suddenly basically held by a gunpoint and then forced to pack some bags and then get taken away from your home, all because of your religion, with like hundreds and hundreds of other people. So yeah, Layla and her family are at this internment camp with like hundreds of other Muslim Americans, all basically because the year before on the census they said that they were Muslim, and so that's how they kind of like found all these people. And there's discussion about how they maybe should have lied on the census and stuff just to avoid any trouble. The actual writing in this I am really enjoying as well. I like Layla as a character because she's different to how I would be in her situation. I would probably be more like her parents in the sense of being like, look, I'm just gonna try and survive this, I'm just gonna try and go along, keep my head down a bit. Whereas she is quite the opposite. Like, she's been there for 2 days and she's already like, right, we need to get out of here, we need to make a plan. And you know what I admire now? I admire her persistence and strength and the fact that she's trying to fight back a bit. And I'm interested to see where the other half of the book's going, because I have seen quite a few reviews on Goodreads which has basically said that the first half of the book is great, but then the second half it goes kind of downhill and it's not as good, and they end up giving it like 2 stars. However, the average rating for this book on Goodreads is still 4.3, which is very good, so we'll see what happens. The reviews mention something to do with David, who's her boyfriend, who is like mixed race and Jewish, who obviously isn't in this camp. And there's this guard called, what's his name again, called Jake, who compared to the other ones is like being kind of friendly-ish, as friendly as a guard could be, I guess, and is actually helping Layla out a bit, like trying to get into contact with David. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what will happen. I have just finished reading Internment and I'm really not sure how I feel about this book. I did think it was really good. I loved the writing, I loved the plot, but like as I mentioned in my last update, there were a couple of things about like the second half of the book that kind of like niggling at me a little bit that I find a bit annoying. Mainly to do with like Layla's relationship with the guard who is like on their side basically. And I know this is going to sound really harsh, but this girl is obsessed with her boyfriend. Maybe this is just a thing of that I can't necessarily relate to that, but I just found that, I don't know, a little bit annoying. So I think maybe for star rating I'm going to give this like 3.5, but like a high 3.5, you know. I think I'd recommend this, and I think I'm definitely gonna go and watch and read some more reviews of this book to maybe make my thoughts a bit clearer. For full clarity, this did fit the plot because all the guards in the internment camp had guns on them. But yeah, and we're finishing that book. I've completed the 1000 Doors readathon. I feel like it's a bit of an anticlimactic finish considering I just gave that book 3.5 stars, but I have really enjoyed taking part in this readathon. I really enjoyed taking part in like the live streams and reading sprints. I really want to like go back through all the videos and find out like what all the prompts are and stuff. I really hope we do this again next year, as I would love to take part again. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching my vlog for the 1000 Doors readathon. If you took part, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and well done in general if you got to the end of this video, because I know it's going to be a long one. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!